What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's some of my early thoughts ahead of Game Week 33. So I'm going to go through some key players that we need to talk about, some notes from the weekend, and some quick thoughts on my team as well. So let's get into it. So we've got to start with Nico O'Reilly. Did get a big score yesterday of 14 points, but unfortunately also picked up an injury as well. It looked like he went down off the ball, which is never ideal, but we don't yet know how bad it is because nothing was said after the game. Now, he was back on the bench before the end of the match, which is hopefully a good sign, but it's hard to know exactly what to take away from that. Is it a small problem? Was it just a precaution? Is he going to miss Game Week 33? We just don't know. So we're going to have to wait and see what Pep Guardiola says on Friday. So obviously right now, just wait and see before you make any decisions. If you're on free hit 33, I think Nico O'Reilly would have been absolutely nailed in that team. And I spoke about that yesterday about having O'Reilly, Semenyo, Haaland, no room for a punt on Cherki. But actually, if O'Reilly's out, I think I would just pick a defender from a different team and go for Cherki in that midfield spot where I think I had Enzo Fernandez. So that does open up a nice differential if you're on free hit 33. If you're looking to buy him, obviously you're going to have to wait and see what Pep says. If you already own him, it's a really tricky position because he's such a good FPL defender. Because of the goal threat, you'll definitely want him back Game Week 35 onwards. And the more wins that Man City get, and the more times that Arsenal drop points, the longer the title race goes on, therefore no rotation, or very limited rotation. So when he's fit, O'Reilly's got a great chance of just starting every game. And Man City also have a potential double in Game Week 36 of Brentford at home, Palace at home. So you'll definitely want him for that. So it's really hard to know what to do. Right now, my early thoughts are, if he only misses the Arsenal game, there is a case to be made to hold on to him because Burnley away in its own right, is a really good fixture. And then, like I said, 35 onwards, he's a really good pick as well. Personally, if he is going to miss Arsenal, despite that being the tougher fixture, I could still see myself selling him because I would just want a double game week player in there. And if he does miss Arsenal, it wouldn't be a guarantee he's back for Burnley because of the small gap between the games, right? It's a midweek fixture. So although I think you can make a case to keep him if he's going to only miss Arsenal, I probably would sell him because the chances are we're not going to get a guarantee that he's back for Burnley anyway. So any doubts, I would probably get rid. If he's going to miss both games, he's got to go, especially if you're on bench boost. It's annoying to have to sell him because you might not get the spare transfer later on to bring him back. But I think you would have to if he's going to miss both games. Who to bring in is an interesting dilemma. I think the safest pick for Man City is probably Gay. I just think he's going to start every single game, no matter who's back, as long as the title race is open. He's 5.1 million, so similar price. Obviously, has a little bit of goal threat himself as well. That goal, yes, I have to quickly say, that second goal I thought was so good. Because the pass that Cherki makes, he makes it look really easy, but I don't think most players play that ball. I think they play the ball wide. He pumps it into Gay, and then he just takes one touch, turns and shoot. Like for a centre-back to do that, it was so good. So Gay just does have some goal threat in his own right, and he's probably the safest for minutes. I also quite like Nunes as well, but his guaranteed starts probably rely a little bit on Kushinov continuing to play centre-back. If they get other centre-backs fit, maybe Kushinov could play the odd game at right-back. I think Nunes will probably play the majority, to be honest. I mean, if you look at his minutes, they've been excellent for a while. I just think Gay is ever so slightly safer. That's Man City. The alternative is to just go to a different non-Man City defender, especially if you want to free up a spot to get a Cherki or a different Man City attacker in somewhere else. The best option for 33 and 35 is probably Leeds, but also Hill and Senesi from Bournemouth are really good, and I don't mind a punt on Cucurella either. He picked up some okay positions in that Man City. Even though Chelsea lost, he did pick up some okay positions, was very close to scoring as well. It was only a minor offside. And Cucurella is a massive differential, so I don't mind him either. Either way, let's wait for more news. Let's hope O'Reilly's back, because he is a great FPL pick. In a world of DEFCON defenders, it's so nice to have a traditional goal-scoring one. So as I've just mentioned him there, let's talk about Cherki next. 6.3 million and looking like a massive differential going into Game Week 33. I think he's going to be extremely popular on free hit teams in particular. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Man City have looked better recently, and Cherki's come into the 11. I think he just offers something a little bit different to every other attacker. Like Doku obviously is a great dribbler, can take a man on. Haaland's your goal scorer. Semenyo can press and got a bit of goal threat as well. But no one in that team really threads a pass like Cherki does. Like, he is the creativity in that 11. And the way they're setting up quite often out of possession with Cherki alongside Haaland is just working really well for them. So I don't want to sit here and say that Cherki is nailed, because that is just a stupid thing to do with a Man City attacker. But I do think he's going to start in the majority of games. It's got to the point now where I'd be shocked if he doesn't start against Arsenal. And if he starts that game, he probably also starts against Burnley as well, especially if they get the win. The momentum is just looking really good right now. The 11 they've got is doing well, and Cherki is a big part of that. So I think he will continue to start. I don't think he's going to play 90 minutes very often, though. So Pep Guardiola praised him quite heavily after the game, but he also said he's got to learn to play 95 minutes. And I got the impression that wasn't a case of fitness. It was a case more of like concentration. Like, he even acknowledged that he's not as good a presser as someone like Semenyo, but as long as he works hard, that's all he can ask for. So I think it's just, you know, if it gets towards the end of the game and it's tight and he wants to make sure Man City is set up well defensively and they're pressing properly, etc., Cherki might come off. Maybe it's a fitness thing as well, but I didn't get that impression from what Pep said. So I think you can expect some 70, 75-minute subs if you're going to buy him. But apart from Semenyo, there's no real other attacker in that midfield to go for that's even slightly interesting from an FPL point of view. It's Haaland, Semenyo, and then Cherki. Semenyo, I still think he's a really good pick, because if you look at the game yesterday against Chelsea, he's on a yellow card and he still plays the full match. Like, he's just going to continue to get great minutes, but his ownership is really high. So if you're looking to do something different, Cherki is the play. And that might be that if O'Reilly's out, you go 3 attackers. So I don't really have too much negative things to say about Cherki. Yes, he might get subbed early, but for 6.3 million, he's looking pretty nice at the moment. So some of you might have gone for Mitoma last week on wildcard, or potentially just brought him in with a free transfer. And unfortunately, he didn't start again for Brighton. So he got 10 minutes off the bench against Burnley in game week 32 and 14 minutes off the bench against Liverpool in game week 31. I think it's fair to say moving forward, his minutes are not guaranteed. And the annoying thing is, if you're an owner of Mitoma, Gomez and Minte started in those wide positions, and Gomez didn't pick up his 10th yellow card. And now Brighton have played 32 games, the threshold is 15. So Gomez isn't getting suspended anytime soon. So you've got competition for minutes, and therefore Mitoma's a problem moving forward. Now the good news is, he probably, and obviously I cannot guarantee this, but he probably gets one start in the double because of how quick the turnaround of games is. So they play Spurs away on Saturday and then Chelsea at home on Tuesday. I do expect a little bit of rotation from Hertzler. I think the likes of Gross and Weaver are probably fine, but Welbeck up front, Gomez, Minte, you just can't be sure they'll start both games. Now, it might be that Mitoma's just benched for both of them, but I think he probably will get at least one start. So if you're low on transfers, you could maybe make a case to keep hold of him. You just take it on the chin that he's going to get benched once and just hope he starts the other one. And that might be enough to not move him to someone else. But if you are sat there with free transfers, I'd be tempted just to put yourself out of your misery. Because the thing is, if your free hit 34, after Newcastle away in 35, the fixtures for Brighton are actually pretty good. So if you're looking at it thinking, well, I want to keep Mitoma because the fixtures are good later, that doesn't really help if he's not going to play them. So you could move to someone like Weaver or Gross instead. I still don't think I would take the risk on Gomez or Minte because Mitoma is a threat for the minutes there as well. But someone like Gross is going to start every game from what we've seen. He's not that interesting of a pick, but at least you know he's going to be on the pitch. Or you just move Mitoma to someone else. I know some people have got Mitoma and O'Reilly, and they're thinking about potentially moving O'Reilly to a non-City defender and then Mitoma to Cherki. That sounds quite nice. So I think you can make a case to keep him if you're confident that he starts at least one of those games in game week 33. But if you've got the spare move, I would probably just bring someone in that's more guaranteed to get minutes in the double. So if you're on bench boost this week, there's a big question mark around Gabriel. Do you bench boost him with Man City away, or do you sell him to a double game weeker with a view to buy him back later on? I think the way the title race is going right now, you probably are going to want him back from game week 35 onwards. It's Fulham at home in 35, followed by West Ham away and then Burnley at home. As long as the title race is on, he's going to start all those games as long as he's fit. And he's a great pick for 35 to 37. So the question then becomes, do you have the transfers and the money to buy him back? because he's quite expensive depending on when you brought him in. So for my team, for example, if I go to the transfer page and list view, I bought him for 6.2. I can sell him for 7.2. So if he doesn't change price, or more to the point, if he doesn't go down in price, it's going to cost me 0.5 to buy him back. So do I have the money to do that? And do I have the transfers? Because the thing is, if the title race is still on for 35 to 37, you might want more than just Gabriel. You might want another defender, possibly an attacker as well. So if you sell him this week, that's one transfer gone, one to buy him back, maybe another Arsenal player as well, that's two. And if you're sat there with 0 Crystal Palace players and they double in 36, you might want at least 2 of them as well. So you're already up to 4 transfers, and that's before anything else goes wrong. So is he worth selling just to buy him back later? If you're short on money in transfers, I think you can make a case just to bench boost him against Man City away. It's not great, especially the way Arsenal are playing right now and the way City are playing, because he might just walk away with a 1 or 2 pointer. But if it saves 2 transfers, that might be more beneficial in the long run. I basically, I don't think it's the end of the world to bench boost him against City away. Like for me, and I'll talk about my team a bit more later on, but he's like the worst player on my bench. Otherwise, I've got 2 double game week defenders, Verbruggen and Van Heck and Bruno Fernandes. I really don't think it's the end of the world. And I'm only sat there with 2 free transfers. And I know I'm going to want some Palace players in. And if Man City beat Arsenal in game week 33, like that really does close the gap. And then I might want more Arsenal 35 onwards. So I think this is going to be a transfer count thing. If you're sat there with like 3, 4 transfers plus, like if you've got 5, then it just seems like such an obvious move if you can afford it later on. The other thing to factor in as well, you might not just need that money to bring Gabriel in. So just think about that. Which other players am I maybe going to want, and how much money do I have to buy them? So if money starts getting tight with your transfer plans, you probably should lean towards keeping hold of him. Like it's not great because it's Man City away. Like it's the worst fixture Arsenal could have, basically. So it's not great to bench boost him, but I also think it's fine for most people. So Ekitike is now a big problem for FPL. That's now the second game in the last 3 game weeks that he hasn't started. In the game against Spurs in game week 30 where he was benched, Isak wasn't even in the squad. And now Isak's back, you've got another player that can take minutes off of Ekitike, and Gakpo can play through the middle as well, as we saw against Fulham in game week 32. Like Ekitike didn't even get off the bench. This is not great. I think he basically has to be sold no matter what your strategy is. He's probably going to start against PSG, second leg of the Champions League. Who knows if he then starts against Everton away in game week 33. So if you're not using a chip this week and you've got Ekitike, he's probably got to be sold. You can go for a double game weeker like Calvert-Lewin or João Pedro if you can handle the blank in game week 34. Otherwise, I'd probably buy someone like Thiago, who's just super consistent, super nailed, and on penalties. And if you are using a chip this week like free hit and you're coming back to Ekitike in game week 34 against Palace at home, he probably just needs to be sold that week as well. Now, if you're on the free hit strategy, obviously you can just wait until 34. If Isak picks up an injury in between, maybe Ekitike stays. But if not, you just cannot guarantee the minutes anymore. And that is a problem. So I think for most people, just got to go. So just a few notes from the weekend. Sarr was benched for Crystal Palace against Newcastle in game week 32, which is not great for the Glasner never rotates narrative. If he can do it after a game where they're 3-0 up in Europe, then he can definitely do it when they've got semi-finals either side of game week 35. So they're 3-0 up against Fiorentina in the quarterfinals of the Europa Conference League. So they look very likely to get through. If they do, they'll basically have Europe, game week 35 against Bournemouth, then another European game. So I think that game week 35 fixture for Palace is potentially a problem. And if I was looking to bring Palace players in, I would try and delay it until game week 36. If you're on wildcard in 35, you can just bring them in and bench them. But I think this idea that Glasner's never going to rotate his team is not true. I don't think he's the kind of manager to necessarily rotate like the whole 11 or anything like that. But it's worth saying they're safe in the Premier League. They're not going to get relegated. They're in a European competition. That's huge. So don't guarantee minutes, basically, from Palace players. And Mateta's on penalties, which we basically already knew, but Sarr has taken one in his absence. So maybe Sarr could have taken the next one. I think it was always likely to be Mateta. We've now basically got that confirmed. For Chelsea, on Enzo Fernandez, Rossini said after the game, I can't wait to have him back. If you want to take a punt on Enzo for some reason in game week 33, he probably will start. So let's say you need a midfield replacement, you want to do something different on free hit. I expect Enzo comes straight back into the team, and I expect him to play both games in the double. Alisson's not in team training yet for anyone that went for Mamardashvili as an option, but it doesn't sound like he's going to be out for a long time. So I probably wouldn't risk using a transfer to change your goalkeeper to a Liverpool one because Alisson could be back soon. And on Bournemouth, Krupi got another start. He's obviously still super cheap, played 84 minutes. Iraola said, I appreciate the job he's doing. He can play almost as a midfielder or second striker, and I'm very, very happy for him. Now, the reason I've mentioned this is not so everyone brings him in, but for some people, it might be handy to have him. And the people that I think about are those that are wildcarding in Game Week 33. Now, when I went through the draft yesterday, I mentioned that if I had more money, I'd probably go for like Gordon and Raya rather than Henderson and Sarr and bring in my Crystal Palace players later on. And the thought did cross my mind, could I just change one of the forwards, Calvert-Lewin or João Pedro, to Krupi and just hope that he gets at least one start in the double, maybe two, and then moving forward, he just becomes a bench option. Because once your bench boost is played in Game Week 35, you don't have to worry about him so much. So if you look at Bournemouth's fixtures, like it seems extremely likely he's going to start one of Newcastle away or Leeds at home, and he'll come off the bench in the other one if he's benched. He may start both of them. I think it's unlikely, by the way, but he could do. So one start, one benching. Then you just hope he plays against Palace in Game Week 35. Basically, if you've got a lot of money, don't buy Krupi. I don't think it's worth it. But if you're really struggling for cash and you're looking to wildcard this week, I don't hate putting Krupi in, get one start in the double, then just hope he plays in 35. And after that, just bench him most games. Because for most of this season, a lot of us have played 3-5-2 or 4-4-2, 4-5-1, etc. Having a third striker like Gio on the bench and just not worrying about them. And that's kind of what Krupi lets you do. But if you're fine for team value, I would just get players that are more guaranteed minutes. So I'm just going to run through some early thoughts for my own team going into Game Week 33. As it stands, I've got 2 free transfers and 1.2 million in the bank. I played my wild card in Game Week 32, and now my bench boost is active in Game Week 33. And unless I get an unrealistic amount of injuries, I'm going to play the bench boost this week. I've got double game weekers Verbruggen and Van Heck on the bench, Fernandes against Chelsea away, and Gabriel against Man City away. I will not have a better bench for the rest of the season. It's got to be played this week. And obviously that was part of the reason that I wildcarded in Game Week 32. Just a quick reaction on that wildcard, by the way, because I didn't do a stream yesterday. I am down on points as it stands, because if I hadn't wildcarded, I'm like 99% certain I would have done Guiu to Bowen, and obviously Bowen did really well. So I'm 6 points down. I've got Calvert-Lewin to play tonight. My non-wildcard team would have had Mbeumo left to play tonight. The chances are I'm going to be more than 6 points down. Both teams have Bruno Fernandes captain, so that doesn't really matter. Do I regret playing the wild card? Not really. The thing is, everybody wants to face off different strategies against each other to determine who's won, right? Wildcard 32 is a disaster. Wildcard 35 is winning, etc. But there's more to it than that. Like, had I been more aggressive, or more importantly, had I had more transfers, like 3 or 4, I probably would have wildcard 32 with Bowen instead of João Pedro, and then sold Bowen to João Pedro in Game Week 33. All of a sudden, I've got another 11, 12 points. And then I'm up on points from wildcarding. So it's a bit like free hit 34 from a few seasons ago where the likes of Mateta absolutely smashed it. On average, people that free hit in 34 did really well, but there were still plenty of people that didn't free hit that also did okay because they had the right players. And that's what it always comes down to. So chip strategy on average can be great or bad or whatever, but I'm guessing there's a lot of people that wildcarded in 32 with bad 32 teams if they hadn't wildcarded that went for Bowen or Thiago are going to sell him this week and they're massively up on points. So I don't think it really matters who wins. I don't regret it, but I wish I had more points, obviously. I wish I'd wildcarded and smashed it. The funny thing is, the defence is what I was worried about. So I wildcarded out of Raya, Gabriel, Van Dijk and Munoz, and I was panicking they were going to smash it. And Van Dijk did really well. But actually, in the end, I got a double clean sheet from Brighton. A bit lucky to get that, but I got it. And O'Reilly got a 14-pointer. So the defence did really well. Basically, not having Thiago or Bowen hurt me. Had I had them, I'd be up on points with Calvert-Lewin versus Mbeumo to go and a good bench boost in 33. So I don't massively regret it. It's annoying that obviously O'Reilly's got injured. It's just another win if you didn't wildcard in 32. it is what it is. Injuries can happen at any point. I'm fairly happy with the decision. Back to game week 33. If O'Reilly's out, I'm definitely going to sell him. I think I'm probably just going to go for Gay. Just safety of minutes. It's boring, yes, I know that, but that's probably what I'm going to do. And I don't really want to use 2 transfers to move my Man City position from defence into midfield, because I quite like Tavernier, Semenyo and Palmer. And Gross has obviously already got an assist for me, so and I think he's a pretty good pick for 33. So I don't really want to do a double move to get Cherki in. So I'll probably just do O'Reilly to Gay, but that's just an early thought. I might change my mind later on. And then Gabriel, look, going into game week 30, if I make no transfers, going into game week 34, I'd have 3. And I'd free hit, so I'd have 3 in game week 35. And if I keep Gabriel, that's 3 transfers to get Palace players in if I want to, or maybe an extra Arsenal player, although that would be tough with money. But I'd basically have to sell an attacker to fund that. That is on my mind, by the way, later on. Maybe sell João Pedro to free up money, just tank that spot again and put that money into the rest of the 11. So 3 transfers would be handy. If I use one on Gabriel, I'll only have 2 going into game week 34. I'll free hit, I'll go back to game week 35, still only having 2, but no Gabriel. So then I've got Gabriel and Crystal Palace players. I think this is my prediction. I'm going to spend all week thinking I'm keeping Gabriel, and then the adrenaline is going to get to me on the deadline stream, and I'm going to sell him to a double game week. And by the way, I've only got 2 Bournemouth players, so I can easily buy James Hill. And I think James Hill's pretty nice this week. So my hope is that I'll just keep Gabriel, and the transfers later on will be more useful to me. But I can just see it on the double game week. I just taught myself last minute. I just taught myself into going for the double game weeker and having 14 doublers, which I don't think I've ever done before in FPL. So we'll see what happens. I think the smart move, because of my transfer count, is to keep Gabriel. And by the way, if I need to deal with O'Reilly, I won't use that second transfer on Gabriel. I'm pretty sure about that. That's just too much work later on from a free transfer perspective. I just won't have enough to deal with the rest of the season. So it's going to depend a lot on O'Reilly. Otherwise, I'm pretty happy with the rest of the team. And also on the wildcard 32 as won or lost or whatever, we've still got free hit 34 to go. You know, that might be worth a few extra points. Salah started against Fulham. He got a goal. Like, he's a big differential on free hit 34 now. You never know. Could Salah save the season? We'll have to wait and see. I'm still in the top 1k, so doing pretty good. But that might be a bigger red arrow after tonight. I've got no Cunha, no Mbermo. I basically need Calvert-Lewin to score a hat-trick. Or not a hat-trick, actually. Maybe 1 or 2 goals. And then Man United to smash Leeds like 6-2. That'd be nice. Calvert-Lewin brace, but Man United smash them 6-2. With no goals from Mbermo or Cunha. Yeah, it's getting unrealistic. Right. I'll leave it there. Transfer tips tomorrow. If you've enjoyed that one, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. And I will catch you again soon.